It's a real pleasure to be here. I love to talk about leadership. Two things that really fascinate me about my life is people and people's journeys. You know, leadership is about getting people to do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do. And so one of the things that I've been able to experience in my time in Lincoln and 33 years as superintendent in Nebraska and Kansas is that everybody has a story. Everybody has a journey. And so when I meet people for the first time or I interview people, I always want to know, what's their journey? How did you get where you are? And so what I want to spend my time talking with you about what I consider to be pivot points that we all experience, but we oftentimes don't know that they are pivot points. And I want you to think about your own personal pivot points, because here's what I believe to be true. We're going to experience things in our leadership lives that we will not be expecting. Raise your hand if you're doing today what your parents programmed you to do. Wow, nobody, surprising. What is it about that occurs? You know, we come into the world about this in the same way, and we have parents that love us, they nurture us, we get an education, we know what we want to be. When you're young, you want to be a fireman or you're a professional baseball player or, you know, something like that. But the reality of it is there's all kinds of things that intervene that change our course. And I liken those to be pivot points because those events that we experience make us better people, and it gives us the opportunity to create stories to help others along their journey. People who know me know I grew up in New York. I talk with my hands. My accent's pretty much gone unless I go back there. And neither one of my parents were educated. And my very first pivot point was my father dropping me off at Doane College in Crete, Nebraska in 1972, not something that I volunteered to do. My second pivot point, because I hated my parents for that, was the seniors took me snipe hunting. And then I realized, you know, maybe I can make this work, kind of like, you know, climbing the mountain. And I thought, instead of just a semester, I'm going to give it a year, and 1 year turned into 4. See, my dad's goal for me, the program was, if you have to get a college education, get it, but come back, get on the police force, and you can get on my softball team, my bowling team. So that was my program, and I thought that was pretty good, because that's what all my cousins, that's what all my aunts and my uncles did. But for me, there was more. And it was that hunger, that thirst to just go out and see how far I could go with regard to what I was learning. Other pivot points that I had, Grand Island Raid 2006 gave me an opportunity to really stand up for what I believed in. And then, of course, if you've been in Lincoln for any number of years, you know the district office burned down in 2011. And what an opportunity to stand up and really talk about the things that matter the most. You see, those pivot points hit us when we least expect them. And so what I want you to think about as future leaders or as leaders today is how do you leverage those pivot points to help transform yourself, but also to transform others? Because that's what leaders do. And transformation is about unlearning the things that you have in your possession, in your being, so that you can really open your mind to the challenges that are out there in front of you. You see, at the end of the day, all of our leadership legacies is not what we accomplished while we were doing something. It's what happens to the people after we depart. And the only way that we're going to be successful in doing that is we have to build relationships. We have to create high-performing teams. We have to develop this fundamental foundation about what is the work, how important is the work, and get people to do things that they ordinarily wouldn't have done. And education is a great place to practice that because we're evolving on an everyday basis. You know, I have to tell you, again, I've been in this business for a long time, the future of education is going to look dramatically different as you go forward. You know, I think about the jobs of the future and what they are, and this kindergartner or this fifth grader or even this eighth grader that we have today. We're preparing them for jobs that won't exist, that don't exist now. And so the pressure that's on us as educators and in our society is how do we lead people to do the things that they often wouldn't have thought to do? Because what happens to us in our journeys I was talking with somebody earlier that, I believe there's a 7-year period of time where we do something similar for 7 years, we now are at risk of becoming complacent. And complacency is natural because we all are creatures of routine. And if I were to say to you, how many of you like change? Some of you are going to raise your hand, and I'm going to say, really? Prove it to me. Because we don't like change. But we can't change others, and we can't change systems until we can change ourselves. And that's what transformational leadership is all about. And that's what pivot points are all about. And so as you depart, I want you to think about what have been those experiences that you've had that will develop stories for you to coach others, because you have to be the model for other people of what it takes to be successful. Because not everybody gets up in the morning and wants to do the effort and the work that it takes to be successful. And I'll leave you with this. We have to embrace change. We don't have to like change. We have to embrace it. It's part of our lives. But the hardest part about change is leading change. And many people run from leading change because it's very uncomfortable. And what I've learned over my years is that the most uncomfortable we are, the more we're going to learn and the more effective we're going to be. And that we need to spend time with thought leaders and not with naysayers. Naysayers take our energy. And unfortunately, those 10% of the people on your teams and in your organizations that are naysayers take up almost 80% of your time. And so that's, as leaders, that's your challenge. But that's uncomfortable and it's difficult work. So I wish you the very, very best, and thanks for having me.